Portgas D is one of the most beloved characters in One Piece, and his death at Marineford remains the most heartbreaking moment in the series. But what if things had gone differently? What if the son of the Pirate King had lived to see another day? In today's video, we'll explore how the trajectory of the One Piece world would change if Ace didn't die at Marineford. Now, for Ace to survive, he needs to avoid the battle with Akainu at all costs, because there's no way that's going to end well. In the original timeline, Admiral Akainu provoked him by calling Whitebeard a failure of an era. Ace's hot-headed nature and deep love for his captain got the better of him. But under the circumstances, Ace wouldn't have been able to control his fiery temper, so the only realistic way he gets out of Marineford is if red-haired Shanks and his pirates arrive on the scene a bit earlier and put an end to the war. Thus, Whitebeard becomes the only major casualty of Marineford. It was already pretty clear that the strongest man in the world had no intention of surviving the war, and he sacrifices himself so that Marco and Ace can carry on his legacy. The immediate aftermath of survival would be devastating for Ace emotionally. He'd carry immense guilt over Whitebeard's death, believing that if he hadn't been captured by Blackbeard in the first place, none of this tragedy would have happened. The man who called him son died protecting him, and now Ace has to live with that weight on his shoulders. Ace would definitely try to fight Blackbeard again during the chaos, seeking revenge for the beating that started this whole catastrophe. After the war ends, Ace would be reunited with Luffy, and despite his depression, he'd definitely berate his little brother for being so recklessly stupid before going their separate ways once more. But here's where things get complicated. With his parentage now revealed to the entire world, Ace's bounty would skyrocket into the billions. The son of Goldie Roger being alive and active as a pirate would make him a bigger target than anyone realizes. Ace would continuously be hunted by pirates, hoping to kill him for fame, and Marines determined to eliminate him before he could become what his father was. During the 2-year time skip, Ace and the surviving Whitebeard pirates would go into hiding, likely retreating to Whitebeard's home island of Sphinx to mourn their captain's death. Here, Ace would fall into a deep depression, reflecting on his life and questioning whether he was truly worthy of being called Whitebeard's son. A year after Marineford, the Payback War between the Blackbeard and Whitebeard crews would probably still take place. But in our timeline, Ace would be present for this conflict and he'd fight harder than anyone. Desperate to restore honor to his name and Whitebeard's memory after the disgraceful defeat at Marineford, Ace would put everything on the line to bring Blackbeard down once and for all. The battle would be fierce, with Ace's flames burning brighter than ever before, but it would all be for nothing. Blackbeard and his crew, now armed with Whitebeard's Gura Gura no Mi, would prove too powerful for the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates. The question becomes whether Ace survives this second encounter with Blackbeard. Knowing how much Teach desires powerful devil fruits, he would aim to kill Ace and claim the Mera Mera no Mi for himself. However, for the sake of our storyline, let's say the other Whitebeard pirates managed to extract Ace from the battlefield, forcing him to retreat and suffer yet another humiliating defeat at Blackbeard's hands. After this second loss, Ace would likely disappear entirely from the main storyline. The shame of 2 consecutive defeats to the same man, combined with the loss of his father figure, would drive him to train harder than ever in isolation. But Ace's survival would have massive ripple effects on the story we know. His death served as the final catalyst that convinced Luffy to train with Rayleigh for 2 years. Without that traumatic loss, would Luffy have made the same decision to get stronger? The answer is probably yes, but the motivation would be different. Even without losing to Ace, the events of Marineford would make it abundantly clear to Luffy that he was nowhere near the strength of the admirals. Rayleigh would still offer to train Luffy, but his mindset during those 2 years would be fundamentally different. There's even a possibility that Ace would train alongside Luffy on Rusukaina Island. Imagine both brothers learning advanced Haki techniques under the Dark King's tutelage. This would create an incredibly powerful sibling duo by the time they return to the seas. When it comes to Ace's own development during the time skip, his survival would force him to confront his limitations in a way death never could. His defeat at the hands of both Blackbeard and Akainu would humble the once proud Fire Fist and drive him to new heights of strength. Ace was already capable of using all 3 types of Haki before Marineford, but relied more on his Devil Fruit instead. But now, with 2 years of intense training motivated by the need to protect his remaining family, Ace would emerge as one of the most formidable pirates in the New World. Marco would likely let Ace captain the Whitebeard pirates and support him as first mate. Now let's talk about how Ace's survival would completely alter the second half of One Piece. One of the most significant changes would come during the Dressrosa arc. In the original timeline, Doflamingo possessed the Mera Mera no Mi and used it as a prize in the Coliseum tournament. If Ace were alive, his fruit would never be in Doflamingo's hands, which means Luffy would have no emotional reason to enter the Coliseum. But more importantly, Sabo wouldn't have any reason to come to Dressrosa. In the original timeline, seeing news of Ace's fruit being offered as a prize triggered Sabo's lost memories and brought him back into Luffy's life. Without that catalyst, Luffy won't meet Sabo in Dressrosa. This creates a fascinating butterfly effect, because without Sabo's intervention, Luffy might not survive his encounter with Jesus Burgess, who was hunting for powerful devil fruit users. The entire Dressrosa arc could end in disaster for the Straw Hats. However, let's assume Luffy somehow manages to overcome these obstacles and continues his journey through the New World. Eventually, he would reach Wano country, and this is where the timeline gets really interesting. Ace had made promises during his previous visit to Wano, including the promise to young Otama that he would return to take her on adventures. In the original timeline, these promises were left unfulfilled due to his death, but if Ace were alive, he wouldn't abandon his word. The Fire Fist would arrive in Wano with whatever remains of the Whitebeard pirates, turning the raid on Onigashima into an even more chaotic battle. Instead of just the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance, we'd have Ace's forces joining the fight against Kaido as well. Imagine Ace's flames combining with Luffy's Gear 5 as the two brothers fight side by side against one of the Yonko. The sight of Roger's son and Dragon's son working together would send shockwaves throughout the world. Speaking of family reunions, Ace's survival opens up the possibility of the three sworn brothers finally fighting together as adults. As he leads the Whitebeard crew, Ace is bound to cross paths with the Revolutionary Army, which creates an opportunity for him to run into Sabo. Now, Sabo would still have his amnesia, but the sight of Ace would surely jolt his memories in the same way that hearing about Ace's death did in the original timeline. Once Ace calls over his little brother to join the party, the meeting between Ace, Luffy, and Sabo would be one of the most emotional moments in the entire series. All three would have grown tremendously since their childhood, and their combined strength would make them a force that could challenge even the world government itself. Ace's relationship with the Revolutionary Army through Sabo could create new alliances that never existed in the original timeline. Dragon's organization might find a powerful ally in Ace's crew, especially since they share common enemies in the world government and celestial dragons. But what about Ace's long-term goals? His survival would reignite his burning desire to surpass his father, Goldie Roger. However, instead of just seeking infamy for its own sake, he'd now be motivated by a desire to honor Whitebeard's memory and protect the family he has left. This could set up an interesting dynamic where both Luffy and Ace are racing toward the title of Pirate King, not as rivals, but as brothers pushing each other to be their best. Ace might even step back and support Luffy's dream, having learned the value of family over personal ambition. However, the world government would view Ace as an even greater threat than in the original timeline. Not only is he the son of the Pirate King, but he's also a survivor who refused to die, making him a symbol of defiance against their authority. This could lead to Ace becoming a primary target for CP0 and other government agencies. His bounty would easily reach the billions, possibly rivaling or even exceeding Luffy's. The combination of his bloodline, his strength, and his symbolic importance as Whitebeard's spiritual successor would make him one of the most wanted men in the world. As the story approaches its climax, the final war that Whitebeard prophesied would play out very differently with Ace alive. Instead of just Luffy leading the charge against the world government, it could be all three sworn brothers united, each commanding their own powerful forces. So what do you think of this alternate timeline? Would Ace's survival make the story better? Does it take away from the emotional impact of the Marineford War? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more One Piece theories and what-if scenarios.